Every choice you make, from the person you love to the career you chase, is secretly driven by a force you've been taught to ignore. You believe you are in control, that your decisions are born from logic and conscious desire. But beneath the surface, in the quiet, hidden rooms of your mind, something else is pulling the strings. It's a truth so intimate, so foundational to who you are, that to look at it directly feels dangerous. It's the truth of your sexuality, not in the crude, just a simple way it's often discussed, but as the raw, primal energy that shapes your entire existence. This isn't about acts or labels. It's about the deepest, most human part of you, the part that Freud dared to give a voice to, the part that dictates your attractions, your repulsions, your deepest fears, and your most powerful longings. You've felt its influence in the strange pull toward certain people, in the inexplicable anxiety that arises from seemingly innocent situations, in the recurring dreams that leave you unsettled upon waking. Today, we will gently pull back the curtain on this silent director of your life. We will explore how your earliest experiences, the ones you may have forgotten or locked away, programmed the very blueprint of your desire. And in doing so, you might finally understand why you keep making the same choices, loving the same kinds of people, and arriving at the same emotional dead ends, again and again. This is the sexual truth behind every decision you make. Think about the last time you felt an intense attraction to someone. It wasn't a checklist of qualities you consciously approved of. It was a pull, a magnetic force that seemed to operate on a level deeper than thought. Or consider a career path you felt compelled to follow, not for the money or the status, but for a feeling it gave you, a sense of power, of admiration, of being seen in a very specific way. These are not random occurrences. They are signatures. They are the fingerprints of your unconscious desires left on the surface of your everyday life. You move through your days making what feel like free choices, yet so often you find yourself in familiar emotional landscapes. You choose partners who demand your constant reassurance, and you call it passion. You pursue goals that drain you, and you call it ambition. You feel a vague sense of dissatisfaction, a quiet hum of anxiety, and you blame it on stress or not trying hard enough. But what if this unease is not a sign of failure, but a signal? A signal from a part of you that has been trying to speak for a very long time. It speaks in the language of sensation, of impulse, of gut feelings, and recurring fantasies. It's the part of you that flinches at a certain tone of voice, that feels a wave of comfort from a particular scent, that is inexplicably drawn to a specific type of chaos or order. These are not logical reactions. They are emotional echoes. They are the present-day manifestations of very old, deeply personal stories written into your nervous system long before you had the words to understand them. You are living a life designed by a ghost, the ghost of your earliest experiences of pleasure, security, connection, and their painful opposites. And until you learn to read its writing, you will keep following a map to a destination you never consciously chose. To understand where this map was drawn, we must go back to the beginning. Before you had a sophisticated understanding of the world, before you could articulate complex feelings, you were a collection of raw sensations. Your first experiences of comfort and discomfort, of pleasure and pain, were not intellectual. They were physical, emotional, and absolute. The warmth of being held, the terror of being left alone to cry, the soothing sound of a voice, the startling shock of a loud noise. These were the first lessons in what it means to feel. And at the very core of this feeling world lies a fundamental biological force, the seeking of pleasure and the avoidance of pain. This is the bedrock. This is the primal energy that Freud identified as the driving force of the human psyche. It is not merely about sexual acts in an adult sense. It is about the entire spectrum of human sensation and connection. Rooted in the body you first inhabited as a child. Think of a child who learns that love is conditional. A child who receives affection only when they are quiet, when they achieve, when they do not cause trouble. For that child, love becomes intertwined with performance. The pure, simple desire for connection becomes complicated by a need to earn it. That need, buried deep in the unconscious, does not disappear when the child grows up. It transforms. It becomes the adult who feels chronically insecure in relationships, who needs constant validation to feel loved, who chooses partners who are distant or critical, recreating the very conditions under which they first learned to earn affection. The original, simple desire for love becomes twisted into a pattern of seeking it from those who cannot freely give it. Or consider the child who witnesses conflict as the primary form of intimacy, where shouting and making up, chaos and passion are the only ways the adults in their life seem to connect. For that child, love becomes synonymous with intensity, even if that intensity is painful. The nervous system learns that calm is boring, that peace is a precursor to abandonment, that real connection must be earned through emotional storms. This child grows into the adult who feels bored in stable, healthy relationships. They mistake the calm for a lack of passion. They unconsciously seek out partners who bring drama and turmoil. Because that chaotic rhythm feels like home. It feels like love. Because it is the only version of love their unconscious mind recognizes. These are not conscious decisions. You do not wake up one day and decide to pursue unhappiness. The blueprint was drawn in invisible ink long ago. Your attractions, your repulsions, your career ambitions, even your seemingly random anxieties, they are all echoes. The way you crave the approval of a dismissive boss may be an echo of a parent whose attention you could never fully capture. The type of person you find mysteriously attractive might hold the same emotional temperature as a caregiver from your past. The career you pursue might be less about the work itself and more about the emotional void it promises to fill. A longing for power that masks a childhood feeling of powerlessness. A desire for visibility that quiets an old feeling of being invisible. You are not broken for having these patterns. You are human. Your mind, in its incredible complexity, developed these strategies to survive your particular childhood environment. It learned what to seek and what to avoid to secure the connection and safety it needed. The problem is that these childhood survival strategies often become adult prisons. The map you use to navigate the world of a 5-year-old is catastrophically ineffective for the world of a 30-year-old. But your unconscious mind doesn't know that. It is timeless. It keeps following the old map, leading you back to the same familiar streets, the same emotional neighborhoods, wondering why you never seem to arrive somewhere new. And so you live, guided by this ancient, invisible hand. You make choices that feel like your own, but they are so often just repetitions. You find yourself in the same arguments with different people. You feel the same hollow feeling after achieving a goal you thought would fulfill you. You are haunted by a sense that you are missing something, that there is a more authentic life waiting for you, but you cannot find the door. This is the price of the repression. This is the emotional collapse that happens when you try to build a conscious life on top of an unconscious foundation that is cracked. You may call it burnout. You may call it a quarter-life crisis. You may simply feel a deep, persistent fatigue, a sense of being tired from the very beginning of the day. This is not just physical tiredness, it is the exhaustion of a civil war happening inside you. Your conscious mind wants stability, peace, and healthy love. Your unconscious mind, driven by its old blueprints, craves the familiar chaos, the earned validation, the painful intensity it mistakes for passion. You are trying to drive a car with one foot on the accelerator and the other on the brake. The grinding sound you hear is your own spirit. Look at the relationships you cannot leave, even when they hurt you. Look at the habits you cannot break, even when you despise them. Look at the anger that flares up from seemingly nowhere, the jealousy that feels disproportionate, the sadness that descends without a clear reason. These are not random malfunctions, they are rebellions. They are the parts of your story that were sealed away and forbidden from speaking, now pounding on the door of your awareness. They express themselves through your body, in the constant tension in your shoulders, in the stomach that knots with anxiety, in the sleepless nights where your mind races through old scenes and old fears. Your body remembers what your mind has tried to forget. This repetition is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of a desperate, unconscious attempt to heal. Your psyche is trying to return to the original scene of the wound, to replay it, but this time to get it right, to finally receive the love you needed, to finally win the approval you were denied, to finally resolve the conflict that was left hanging in the air. But you cannot solve a childhood problem with an adult relationship. You cannot get a different outcome from a person who is, in your unconscious mind, just a stand-in for someone from your past. So you try again, and again. And each time, the cycle ends the same way, in the same familiar disappointment, the same old hurt. And with each repetition, the weight of the unsaid truth grows heavier. The gap between the life you are living and the life you feel you should be living widens into a chasm of quiet despair. This is the collapse. It is the moment the carefully constructed persona, the one that says, "I'm fine and I have everything under control," begins to crumble under the weight of a truth it was never designed to carry. It is the feeling of being a stranger to yourself, living a life that looks good on the outside but feels empty on the inside. It is the profound loneliness of being in a room full of people who love you but feeling completely unseen, because the part of you that truly needs to be seen has been locked in the basement for decades. You are not falling apart. You are being forced to confront what was already broken. But what if this collapse is not the end, but the beginning? What if this feeling of breaking apart is actually the first sign of a deeper understanding trying to emerge? When the old patterns stop working, when the familiar pain becomes too loud to ignore, something shifts. You begin to see the connections. You start to notice how the way your partner dismisses your feelings echoes the way a parent dismissed your childhood tears. You realize that the relentless drive for perfection in your work is the same desperate need for approval you felt when you brought home a drawing from school, waiting for a reaction that never came. These are not just coincidences, they are clues. They are the breadcrumbs your unconscious has been leaving for you all along, leading you back to the source of the pain. This is the moment of comprehension. It doesn't happen with a loud bang, but with a quiet, sobering whisper. It's the moment you stop asking, "Why does this keep happening to me?" and you start asking, "Why do I keep going back to this?" The blame shifts from the outside world to your internal world. And in that shift, there is a profound and terrifying power. You are no longer a passive victim of your history. You become a detective of your own soul. You see that the attraction wasn't random. It was a recognition of a familiar emotional climate. The anxiety wasn't a malfunction. It was an alarm bell ringing for a threat that is no longer there, but that your nervous system is still wired to expect. Understanding is not about finding a villain in your past. It is not about blaming your parents or your childhood. They too were living out their own unconscious patterns. Understanding is about seeing the mechanism. It is about realizing that you have been living with a hidden script. This is the great human tragedy. The child made decisions about what is safe, what is love, what is desirable, based on the limited evidence they had. And you, the adult, have been faithfully acting out that script, mistaking it for your own free will. This is the great human tragedy and the great human hope. The tragedy is that we are all to some degree haunted by these ghosts. The hope is that by turning to face them, by listening to their stories, we can finally update the script. We can't erase the past, but we can change its power over our present. When you understand that your need for a partner's constant reassurance is the ghost of a child who felt unseen, the dynamic changes. You can bring compassion to that need instead of shame. You can acknowledge its origin without letting it dictate your choices. You can say to that part of yourself, "I see why you feel this way. You needed that then, but we are safe now." We can choose differently. This is not a quick fix. It is a slow, gentle reparenting of yourself. It is learning to meet those old, desperate feelings with the understanding and stability they never had. It is about recognizing the echo and choosing, consciously and with great effort, not to follow it. The pole will still be there. The old map will still feel familiar and safe in its own painful way. But now you have a new awareness. You have a flashlight in the dark rooms of your mind. You can see the furniture you've been bumping into all your life. And once you see it, you can start to move it. You can start to rearrange the space. So I ask you this, directly and quietly. What is the one pattern in your life that feels the most tired? The one you keep repeating? The one that leaves you with the same hollow feeling? The one that you secretly suspect is connected to something much older? Don't answer right away. Just hold the question. Let it sit with you. What if that pattern is not a life sentence, but a message? What is it trying to tell you about the child you once were? If this quiet understanding resonates with you, if it feels like a key turning in a lock you didn't even know was there, then you are already beginning the only work that truly matters, the work of becoming whole. If this video felt like a conversation you needed to have, please like it and subscribe to the channel. It helps more people find their way to this understanding. And so we arrive at the quiet center of the storm, the place where the noise of your daily life fades, and you are left alone with a single, sobering realization. You are not crazy. You are not flawed. You are not doomed to repeat the same story forever. You have simply been listening to the wrong narrator. Your conscious mind, with all its logic and plans, has not been the one in charge. It has been the unconscious, the keeper of the old maps, the guardian of the childhood vows you made about what you deserved and how you must act to survive. Understanding this is not about finding a magic solution or erasing your past. It is about reclaiming your authorship. It is the moment you realize that the sexual truth behind your decisions, that raw, primal energy, is not your enemy. It is a fundamental part of your humanity that was shaped by your earliest experiences of love, safety, and desire. It was forced into certain channels, certain patterns, to accommodate the world you lived in as a child. And now, as an adult, you have the profound and difficult ability to look at those channels and decide if they still serve you. The comprehension is this: your desires are not the problem. The problem is the hidden, unconscious constraints placed upon them. The problem is the invisible fence around your heart that tells you to only love people who are unavailable, or to only feel safe when you are in control, or to only feel desired when you are performing. When you see the fence for what it is, a construction from another time for another purpose, the entire landscape of your life changes. You are no longer a prisoner inside it. You are simply a person who has been looking at the world through a window painted shut by old fears. Now you know the paint is there, and knowing is the first step toward opening the window. What is the one story you keep telling yourself about who you are and what you deserve? Not the story you tell others, but the quiet, persistent narrative that runs beneath your surface, the one that whispers, you are too much or not enough, that you must earn your place, that love is always conditional, that your desires are somehow wrong. What if that story was not written by you, but for you, by a child who was just trying to make sense of a world they couldn't control? What would happen if you stopped believing it? If this quiet understanding resonates with you, if it feels like a door opening to a room you were always meant to enter, then you are not alone. This is the work of becoming real with yourself. If this video felt like a conversation you needed to hear, please like it and subscribe to the channel. It helps these gentle truths reach others who are listening for them in the silence. Now, let's take a moment of silence together. In this pause, I want you to consider something that might feel uncomfortable at first. That magnetic pull you feel towards certain people, that career path that seems to choose you more than you choose it, that recurring dream that leaves you unsettled. What if these aren't random occurrences? What if they are perfectly logical responses to the emotional world you inhabited before you could even speak? Your unconscious mind is not a chaotic mess. It is a brilliant, if wounded, archivist. It has kept perfect records of every emotional transaction from your earliest years. The way your father's silence felt like rejection. The way your mother's anxiety became your anxiety. The way love felt conditional on your achievements or your quiet compliance. These weren't just moments, they were lessons in what it means to be you. And your desires today are still speaking the language of those lessons. The person you find irresistibly attractive often embodies the very emotional quality, whether it's distance, intensity, or criticism, that was present in your earliest formative connections. It feels like love because, to your unconscious, it is love. It's the only version of love it has ever known. This is why willpower so often fails. You can consciously decide to want a healthy, stable partner, but if your unconscious blueprint is wired for emotional uncertainty, stability will feel like boredom. Your very biology will rebel against what your conscious mind knows is good for you. This is the deep, structural reason why insight alone is rarely enough to change our patterns. The wiring is older and deeper than our current thoughts. So the work is not to fight your desires, but to understand their origin, to trace the thread back from the present-day attraction to the childhood wound, to see that the person you keep trying to change is, in your unconscious mind, the parent you could never please. The success you keep chasing is the approval you never felt you received. The silence you keep filling with noise is the loneliness you felt in a room that was never truly quiet. When you see this connection clearly, without judgment, something fundamental shifts. The compulsion begins to lose its power. You start to see the pattern not as your fate, but as a story you've been living. And a story, once understood, can be rewritten. What if the very thing you're running from in your relationships, the silence, the stability, the lack of drama, is actually the very thing your deepest self craves, but your nervous system has been trained to fear? What would it feel like to just sit with that quiet for 5 minutes without needing to fill it?